My 5-year-old daughter uncovered my husband's secret. Children notice things adults overlook. That's what frightens me most when I think back on everything. For years, two grown women lived entire lives beside the same man without uncovering the truth. We shared holidays with him, trusted him, built homes around him, had children with him. And yet neither of us realized we were married to the same person. But two little girls figured it out within days of meeting each other. Not because they understood lies, because they recognized themselves. Sometimes I still think about how easily the truth could have stayed buried forever if my daughter hadn't come home from kindergarten so excited about her twin friend. That's what she called her at first. My twin. At the time, I laughed. I'm not laughing anymore. My daughter Sophie started kindergarten the same year one finally began feeling emotionally stable again after losing my husband. Or at least, the man I believed was my husband. His name or the name I knew him by was Daniel Harper. 4 years earlier, Daniel died in a car accident during what I believed was a business trip 2 states away. The police called me around 3 in the morning. I still remember every detail of that phone call, the darkness in my bedroom, the way my hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone, the strange calmness in the officer's voice while my entire world collapsed. Widowhood at 32 felt unreal. For months afterward, I moved through life like someone underwater. Everything sounded distant, slower, heavy, but Sophie kept me going. She was only 1 year old when Daniel died, too young to remember him clearly. Every milestone afterward became bittersweet because part of me constantly mourned the fact that he never got to witness them. Her first real sentence, her first bike ride, her first day of school. Sometimes I'd catch myself turning instinctively, wanting to share a moment with him before remembering he was gone. Grief becomes strange like that. It doesn't disappear. It simply learns how to sit quietly inside you. By the time Sophie started kindergarten, life had finally become manageable again. Not happy exactly, but stable, predictable, safe. Then my daughter came home from school one afternoon and unknowingly shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I still remember that afternoon perfectly. The second Sophie burst through the front door, she looked more excited than I had ever seen her. "Mommy," she yelled while throwing her backpack onto the floor. I made a best friend. I laughed immediately. Well, that was fast. She started talking before I could even finish taking off her shoes. Her words tumbled together in one endless stream of excitement. Her friend's name was Lily. They sat together during coloring time. They played on the swings together. They both liked dinosaurs. And according to Sophie, they were basically identical. "She looks exactly like me," Sophie announced proudly while stuffing crackers into her mouth at the kitchen counter. I smiled absent-mindedly. "That's nice, honey." "No, really," she insisted. "Exactly like me." At 5 years old, children exaggerate everything, so I didn't think much of it. Kids constantly claim random similarities mean they're twins. Same shoes. Twins, same favorite color. Twins, same lunchbox, basically siblings. I assumed this was another version of that. Still, Sophie talked about Lily constantly throughout the entire week. Every afternoon became a detailed update about their friendship. Lily likes macaroni too. Lily's favorite movie is the same as mine. Lily has the same ears. That last comment made me laugh because Sophie hated her ears. Daniel used to tease her lovingly about them all the time. "You got those from me," he'd joke while gently tugging them. Sophie would groan dramatically every single time. "She does not have my ears," Sophie complained. Then she paused. "Actually, she really does." Later that week, the school sent home a parent contact sheet for playdates and emergencies. I noticed Lily's mother had written her number beside her name. Almost impulsively, I texted her that evening. "Hi, this is Sophie's mom. The girls seem inseparable already. Would you and Lily like to come over for dinner sometime this week?" She responded almost immediately. "I'd love that." Lily won't stop talking about Sophie either. We settled on Friday evening. At the time, I imagined a perfectly ordinary playdate, pizza, wine. Two exhausted single mothers bonding while our children destroyed the living room. I had absolutely no idea my entire understanding of my marriage was about to collapse. Friday arrived quickly. Sophie spent most of the afternoon practically vibrating with excitement. She's gonna love my room. She's gonna love my toys. She's gonna love my dinosaur blanket. I smiled while setting the table. Around 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Sophie sprinted toward the door before I could stop her. Lily, I followed behind laughing. Then I opened the door fully and froze. For one impossible second, my brain genuinely struggled to process what I was seeing. The little girl standing beside her mother looked almost identical to Sophie. Not vaguely similar, not kids kinda resemble each other similar. I mean shockingly like, same dark brown hair, same wide eyes, same nose, and yes, the exact same oversized ears. Even the way she smiled looked familiar. Beside me, Sophie grabbed Lily's hand proudly. See, I told you. I stared speechlessly. Lily's mother looked equally stunned. Oh my God, she whispered. For several awkward seconds, neither of us seemed capable of speaking normally. Then finally she laughed nervously. Well, this is a little creepy. I forced a smile. Just a little. The girls immediately ran off toward Sophie's room while Lily's mother and I remained standing near the doorway staring at each other in disbelief. Up close, I realized she was beautiful in a quiet, tired sort of way. Probably around my age, dark circles beneath her eyes. The kind of exhaustion single parents recognize instantly in one another. I'm Rachel, she said finally. Emily, we shook hands awkwardly. Then both glanced instinctively toward the hallway where our daughters disappeared together. This is unbelievable, Rachel muttered. I nodded slowly, because deep down, something uncomfortable had already begun forming inside me. Something I couldn't explain yet. Dinner started normally enough. The girls laughed nonstop while eating pizza and showing each other toys. Meanwhile, Rachel and I sat at the kitchen table trying to act casual despite repeatedly glancing toward the children. You weren't kidding, she finally admitted quietly. They really do look alike. I swallowed, yeah. At first I assumed maybe they just both had dark features. But now she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to, because now that we saw them side by side, the similarities became impossible to ignore. At one point the girls sat together on the couch laughing at cartoons, and it genuinely looked like watching sisters. Actual sisters. The thought made something twist painfully in my stomach. To distract myself, I asked Rachel about her life. That's when the coincidences started becoming terrifying. She was divorced, or at least, that's how she described it initially. My husband passed away 4 years ago, she explained softly while sipping wine. The glass nearly slipped from my hand. 4 years ago, exactly when Daniel died. I forced myself to stay calm. I'm sorry, I said carefully. She nodded quietly. Car accident. My heartbeat started pounding hard enough to hurt. What was his name? I asked casually. Michael, not Daniel. Relief washed through me so suddenly I almost felt embarrassed for overthinking everything. Still, something felt wrong. I can't explain it logically even now. Maybe intuition notices patterns before the conscious mind catches up. Because despite the different name, I couldn't shake the feeling that something connected us far more deeply than coincidence. Rachel continued speaking while I quietly spiraled internally. He traveled constantly for work, she explained. Honestly, sometimes it felt like I barely saw him. My stomach tightened again. Business trips. Daniel traveled constantly too. Suddenly dozens of old memories resurfaced differently. Cancelled weekends. Last-minute flights. Unreachable phone calls, excuses. At the time, all of it seemed normal. Now every memory felt poisoned. I stood abruptly. I'm sorry, I muttered. Would you mind waiting here a second? Rachel looked confused. Sure, I walked upstairs toward my bedroom with my pulse racing. Inside the closet sat several old photo albums I hadn't touched in years. For some reason, my hands trembled while pulling them down. Part of me already knew. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. I returned downstairs carrying the albums carefully. Rachel frowned slightly. What's this? I opened one slowly and turned it toward her. The second she saw the photograph, all color drained from her face. The wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered across the floor. For a moment, neither of us moved. Rachel stared at the picture like she'd seen a ghost. Then finally, barely above a whisper, "That's my husband." My entire body went cold. "No," I whispered automatically. Rachel grabbed the album with shaking hands. Tears instantly filled her eyes. "That's Michael." But it wasn't Michael to me. It was Daniel. My husband, the father of my daughter, the man I buried 4 years earlier. We spent several seconds simply staring at each other in absolute horror. Upstairs, our daughters laughed together, completely unaware that both our lives had just exploded. The next several hours felt surreal. Rachel and I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by old photographs, documents, and half-finished glasses of wine while slowly uncovering the truth piece by piece, or at least a version of truth we could still access. The deeper we looked, the worse it became. Different names, different jobs, different histories, but always the same face. The same man, our husband. We compared timelines carefully. And somehow, impossibly, the entire double life started making sense. Daniel Michael had structured everything around business travel. When he supposedly traveled for work with me, he was living with Rachel. When he disappeared from her life for conferences, he was home with me. He maintained 2 houses, 2 marriages, 2 daughters born only months apart. The logistics alone seemed impossible. "How did we not know?" Rachel whispered repeatedly. I wondered the same thing, but looking back, the signs suddenly seemed everywhere. His emotional distance sometimes, the secrecy, the separate credit cards, the way he avoided social media almost obsessively. At one point, Rachel suddenly started crying uncontrollably. Not loud crying, the devastating kind. The kind born from realizing your entire marriage may have been partially fictional. "I loved him," she whispered brokenly, and somehow that hurt most of all. Because I loved him too, even after death. Even after years of grieving him. And now suddenly the man we mourned together became someone neither of us truly knew. Eventually, the girls wandered downstairs, sleepy and confused by our silence. Sophie climbed into my lap. "Why are you sad?" I looked at Rachel, then at our daughters sitting side by side on the couch. Half-sisters, neither understanding the truth yet. I kissed Sophie's forehead gently. "I'm okay, baby," but honestly, I wasn't. The following months were emotionally chaotic. Rachel and I uncovered additional lies constantly. Different bank accounts, separate insurance policies, entire years where his stories didn't match reality. At one point, we discovered he had nearly overlapped family vacations accidentally. Another time, we found duplicate birthday gifts hidden in storage. The man had spent years carefully balancing 2 completely separate lives, and somehow succeeded until death exposed him. The car accident itself suddenly looked different too. At first, we wondered if one family had been his real family. But eventually we realized the painful truth. We both were, in his own twisted way. He genuinely loved both households. That didn't excuse anything, but it complicated the anger. Sometimes Rachel hated him, sometimes I did. Other days we missed him terribly despite everything. Grief mixed with betrayal creates a uniquely awful kind of emotional confusion. But through all of it, one thing remained strangely simple. The girls adored each other, completely naturally. Like they had known each other forever. And maybe somewhere deep down, they had recognized something familiar from the beginning. A shared smile, shared expressions, shared blood. Eventually, Rachel and I made a decision together. Whatever our husband had done, our daughters deserved each other. So instead of pulling apart, our families merged closer together. Playdates became weekly dinners became holidays. Then birthdays, then vacations. And slowly, unexpectedly, Rachel became one of the closest people in my life. Not because of him, but because we understood each other in a way nobody else possibly could. We had both loved the same man, lost the same man, and discovered the same horrifying truth together. Strangely, surviving that pain bonded us permanently. Years later, the girls still joke about being secret twins. Now they know the real story, though we waited until they were old enough to understand it carefully. Their reaction surprised us both. They weren't angry, mostly fascinated. How did Dad keep that secret? Sophie asked once. Rachel laughed darkly. We'd both love to know. Sometimes people ask whether I hate my husband now. The answer is complicated. Part of me does. Part of me always will. Because betrayal on that scale changes you permanently. But another part of me still remembers the man who held my hand while Sophie was born. The man who danced with me in the kitchen late at night. The man I genuinely believed I knew. Maybe neither version was entirely fake. Maybe that's what makes everything so painful. The lies were real, but so was the love. And in the strangest way imaginable, his final secret gave our daughters something beautiful anyway, each other.